This is the Testosterone Podcast with Noel, Keith, and Steve. And now, brace yourself for greatness.
2, 1.
Man, we're already on 3.
Okay, 4, 5, go.
And welcome to episode 15.
Took us 15 seconds to do that. That's what you meant.
No. So welcome to episode 15 of the podcast. This is Noel, and I'm with Keith and Steve.
Welcome, everybody.
And, we're happy to be with you again for another exciting episode.
Yes, sir.
We have a super special guest today, and I've been very excited about this from the very beginning. Whenever we talked about doing the podcast, we talked about having him on. He is a certified real-time weather guy.
Yes.
And we're going to pick his brain today about weather and weather safety and all kinds of stuff related to weather. So this will be a very good topic. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, me too. Especially this time of year, it's going to be really timely with tornado season coming up and hurricanes right around the corner. So I'm excited.
Not to mention the volcanoes. I don't know if that has anything to do with weather, but that'll be something we'll ask.
We're going to ask anyway. You can make stuff up. It's cool.
Sure. Of course. So, Keith, how's the weather in your neck of the woods?
Well, I probably have somebody better that can tell me because he's probably looking at it right now. But right now we're windy. What else is new? Noel, how about you?
I'm shocked.
I know.
Well, it's hot and humid, if you can believe it, and it's getting hotter and humider, if that's a word. But we're heading into the summer season, so
absolutely.
But how about you, Steve?
The weather in Southeast Alaska is actually fairly warm by all Alaska standards. It got up to 70 degrees yesterday, which was pretty awesome considering as one of the rare days we didn't have to wear a jacket during the day. So that's pretty awesome, and definitely looking forward to seeing what summer's like here in Alaska.
All right. And we're excited to have a super celebrity teenage correspondent with us today. And he has not only one, but he actually has 2 words, I've been told.
We've got a 2 for today.
I don't know what the word is. I don't know what the words are, but we're very excited to have him with us. So welcome, teenage correspondent.
Hey. We're glad you're here, man. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you very much for joining us, man. So
okay, so this is how the routine goes, special teenage correspondent celebrity, right? So we're old and we're not cool anymore. That's just the facts. And so we are counting on you, our superior, to teach us a cool word or words in your case that can help us to try to be cool again. So we're going to try to figure out the definition, and then we're going to try to use it in a sentence, and then we're going to try to use it throughout the episode. So tell us, oh great one.
All right, so what I got today is dubs and L's, and basically what this means.
Nice.
Don't tell. Dubs and L's.
Dubs and L's.
And it's like what? Oh, okay. So all right, you're gonna figure out the definition.
So now we've got to guess what this is.
Yeah.
So
all right,
no,
I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna go.
That's what I'm thinking. Wins and losses.
Yeah. That's exactly
Yep. This is the second week that we have guessed something. Only 2 times. I'm so proud of us. Okay, good.
Basically, what it is like W. It sounds like dub, and so it's like DUB. And I'm gonna get this dub. That's how it's basically.
DUB.
And then, or like L.
Okay.
Like, you take the L.
So, I would consider that dubs for us.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And you're the L's because you didn't say it first. Sorry.
Man. I like it.
I do too.
Dubs and L's.
Dubs and L's. We're going to remember that. So, and you're coming back with a joke, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I like it, man.
So speaking of what are your are you a gamer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Tell us what's your game?
What's your game of choice?
I know this game is really popular right now, and I usually play. It's called Fortnite.
Oh, and we have another Fortnite fan.
Another Fortnite.
So, our first teenage correspondent is a huge Fortnite fan too.
Nice.
Yeah.
So yes. So okay. So let me tell me a little bit. What do you think about the new season? Here, this is bad, Noel. I'm learning this as I'm going because I'm watching this.
Oh my
What do you think about the crater? What do you think about the whole thing?
Well, everybody thought Tilted Towers was going to get hit, and then it was.
I did too. That's how sad this is. I even was in on this.
Now it's Dusty
yes.
Depot, but now it's Dusty Divot. So, yeah, now we got the crater, and they added a new game mode like 2 days ago, and it's really cool.
Is it the one with Thanos?
Or should I say lit?
Oh, you're good. Teenage correspondent for the Dubs. Sorry.
Noel's here. That's awesome.
That's awesome. So do you have a group that you play with?
Yeah, I have a few friends I can play with.
Oh man,
my brother always likes to play with his friends. I mean, he doesn't like to play by himself.
Right. So have you played that mode with Thanos yet?
Oh, I haven't gotten to play it yet, but I've heard it and seen it.
It looks pretty cool. So Noel, they're integrating like the whole Infinity War, the bad guy in that, the Thanos. He's part of this new theme, and it's pretty cool.
Apparently, there's like a gauntlet that's dropped off, and if you like find it, you turn into Thanos. And you can like do a bunch of cool stuff.
Wow.
And it's really cool.
Yeah. If the Fortnite Thanos is as powerful as the one in the movie, he's got to be unstoppable. So
yeah.
I told one of my friends, he can't do this in the game, but like if he dies, he can use his time stone to go back, and then you're back.
That would be the right way to do it. If he was thinking, they would have thought of that for sure. Man, that movie. Did y'all see it? Have y'all seen this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. The end was like, what just happened? You know?
Yeah, I know it.
Oh man.
Have you seen it, Teenage Correspondent?
Yes,
okay.
It's good.
And yeah, at the very end, I was sitting there like, what just happened? Like, really?
I know.
My goodness.
I thought they might have made him a little bit too powerful. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It seems like they took it a little too far. Like,
yeah. Well, we don't want to ruin it for our listeners. If
we're not spoiling it, but yeah, it's go see it if you haven't, because that's a great flick.
It is a good movie.
Man,
and it's one of those you want to see probably in the theater.
No doubt.
Stuff that was pretty.
And
cool,
I'm pretty sure there was so much going on. I need to see it one more time at least, because there was so much going on. I was there. I'll tell you guys offline about something that I heard about a scene with Doctor Strange is pretty cool, but I won't spoil it for anybody, but I'll tell you all about it offline. So anyway, cool. Well, hey, thank you for the words. Now you're gonna be back for the joke, right? Do you have a joke?
Oh yeah, I got a joke.
Oh, I knew it.
Save it for the end.
We bring our jokes up at the end, and that's how we finish strong, because at least it makes people painfully hurt if they're bad. So that's good.
All right.
But thank you. We appreciate you. And hey, will you come on more with other words?
Yeah, I have some other words.
Excellent.
I had a lot of words, but I had to choose.
Yeah, it's hard to narrow it down.
Don't worry,
I know it. So yeah, keep those saved up, because we'll want some more.
I got some stuff up my sleeve.
Awesome. Well, we're glad you're here. We appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Teenage Correspondent. We appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, man. So Noel, from what I'm understanding is now you've got a special guest that you've been really trying to get on this episode for a while, and so tell us the whole shooting match. I'm excited about today.
He is without a doubt my favorite weatherman, and his name is Steve Kersh, and he's the chief meteorologist at Channel 7 out in Amarillo, Texas. So. Steve, we are glad you're with us today.
Absolutely.
Glad to be here.
Welcome.
Yeah. So we, like I said, at the very beginning, we've been talking about trying to get you on here from the very beginning. We're trying to list out people that we wanted to bring in, and you're definitely on that list. So we've been looking forward to this talk. So I'm glad we could work it out and schedule it and stuff. So
yeah, glad to be here.
But Steve, do you have a question for Steve? Well, this is going to be great.
Hey, Steve, thanks for joining us on the podcast. So we all appreciate that. Quick question. The areas of the country such as Texas and California seem to experience long periods of drought and then it is usually followed by historic amounts of rain and flooding. Over history, is this a consistent trend or is it a more recent development?
Yeah, I mean, we have seen with Hurricane Harvey in the southeast Texas coast historic flooding we'd never seen before. We've seen other extreme events too. I don't know that. I think the media, national media especially, has really hyped up a lot of this. I don't really know that what we're seeing is any different from extreme events in the past that maybe weren't as hyped up or publicized. My personal opinion is that what irks me is when we have a tornado hit a town and it's immediately linked to climate change or global warming. We've had tornadoes forever. We've had floods forever.
Right.
Was Harvey unprecedented? Absolutely. Having a hurricane move ashore and then dump 50 to 60 inches of rain, it's something we've never seen before. But I just don't think we can jump to conclusions and say, well, A goes directly to B. There are other things at play. There's always something going on in the atmosphere somewhere. But in this day and age where there is a whole lot of politicized weather going on, I was speaking to a Kiwanis club today in the Southwest Panhandle. One of the questions that was brought up was, what do you think about climate change and global warming?
I'm sure you get that a lot, don't you?
A whole lot. And I'm a meteorologist. I'm just trying to figure out if it's going to rain tomorrow or not. Climatologists are the ones that deal with that, but it's just gotten so political lately that it's really tough to distinguish good, viable weather information from that's being funded by one organization or the other. And it's made it very tough. But to answer the question about that, are they becoming more typical or normal? I really don't think so. I really think that we've seen these things in the past. Maybe we didn't have the population centers, things to report. I don't know. But I just don't think that they are something unprecedented. Harvey, yes. Will we ever see that again? Gosh, I hope not. Yeah.
Let's hope not. That was nasty, and one of the things that Harvey did is it changed some of the canals and stuff like that down here that have that drain water from the Houston area. So, like for example, down in Kingwood, the San Jacinto River that runs right through there was deep before Harvey, but Harvey pushed down so much soot and dirt and sand and everything that it's altered the river so much that even a small rain now floods that thing. So they're gonna need to get in there and dredge it and put it back the way it was before the hurricane. So
and that happened in Katrina, in Louisiana, Mississippi, Katrina too. Hurricanes, people just don't understand. Of course, you may understand more than anybody, Noel. You've been through a couple about the power of the wind, and they just don't think. They say, well, the wind's going to blow. Well, 7,500 mile per hour for hours upon hours, and the power of the water is just amazing. And you have the problems up here in the Panhandle with people forgetting how strong the winds are, and you have a tornado, like, wow, I just forgot how strong the winds could be. Yeah, they can be devastating.
I have a question for you. Being up in Amarillo, obviously you're really in the hot seat for tornadic activity, probably. And what is your radius? I mean, do you have an area that you kind of? How does the reporting work? I guess for that kind of activity up there.
Well, the way that television works is we all have what's called an area of dominant influence, or an ADI, and that's where people can pick up your signal via regular antenna. Okay. And ours includes all the Texas Panhandle, which if you kind of use Lubbock as an example, Plainview is right on the edge of our viewing area. So it's really Lubbock. So you go just about 5 miles north of Plainview, you're in Swisher County. That's the southern end of our viewing area. We go all the way up to the Oklahoma Panhandle. We go from Childress in the southeast Panhandle to Clayton, New Mexico, and northeastern New Mexico. Our viewing area, if you were to take it and put it on a map, is about the size of the state of Ohio. So it's incredibly large. We have a big elevation difference. Childress has an elevation of about, probably 900,000 feet, somewhere around in there. And we have mountains in the northwestern part of northeastern New Mexico and one county that are over 7,000 feet. So we're tremendously diverse elevation wise, tremendously diverse in size, and it's a royal pain in the tush to try to forecast for this entire area. And more than once have we had a tornado watch or warning down around Childress and a blizzard ongoing around Clayton, New Mexico.
That blows my mind.
But tornado watch, yeah, we do have a staff of storm chasers that are freelancers. They have regular jobs during the day, and so when duty calls and we need them to go out, they do, and they are a great group of guys. And it takes a teamwork for an area this big, and we have a network of cameras too that I've installed in a lot of places that help tremendously as well to kind of track the weather and see what's going on in all these diverse locations.
Golly.
Steve, have you done any storm chasing? If so, is it as fun as it looks?
I have gone storm chasing. In fact, I have a youngest son who's 11 who is interested in weather. In fact, he will look at the computer models in the morning before I get up, and as soon as I walk out the door and I'm trying to figure out what planet I'm on and what my name is, he's usually telling me what the latest computer model data is.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he's a weather nut. He doesn't want to be on TV. He's pretty shy, but he is interested in the weather. And we went out chasing, I guess it was about a week and a half ago. We had two areas where storms were supposed to pop up. One was around Clovis, New Mexico. The other was in the northwest Texas Panhandle. And we had chasers going down around Clovis. So I told him, I said, look, let's go to the northwest Panhandle. I think there'll be fewer people there. We might get lucky and see something. So we did, and we waited, and storms popped up around Clovis. And he was reading me the riot act about, oh, Dad, you just messed up. You were in the wrong, I'm like, oh. But the storms finally.
The student is now the master.
Sorry. The bad one was about ready to kill me with a lightsaber is what was going on.
Gotcha.
But we finally had some storms. We had some nickel-sized hail or something like that. He was tickled pink. So it turned out all right. But, man, for a while I was sweating bullets.
And follow up to that question, can the Testosterone crew join you on a storm chasing trip?
Yeah, I always try to have a few empty spots in my car whenever I storm chase. And the main thing about chasing is you should never chase alone. I made the mistake, I think it was 2005. I was out speaking to a group in Silverton in the Southeast Panhandle. We had storms pop up around Childress, and I decided to go in the car that I was driving to the town was a Scion XB. If you've seen those, they look like Chinese takeout boxes. Unreal.
You can deliver the mail and the rice. That's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
I drove to Dalhart one time, and this huge front came through. I got 12 miles to a gallon driving to Dalhart. I got 62 driving back in the wind.
Oh my God.
Horribly aerodynamic. So I got down there, and this before, I had Google Maps and everything in my phone and car. And I was just looked at a map, and it was down around Paducah, Texas, which is south of Childress. Thought that this highway went due east and west. There was a storm north of me, had baseball hail in it. And I thought, no problem. I'll just drive down Highway 70. It'll be just north of me. Everything's great. Got about 8 miles east of Paducah, and all of a sudden the road turns to the north. I'm like, oh, goodness, this is not good. And
that's not good.
When you've seen a hook echo before in a storm, that's where the rain and hail and sometimes tornado is. That wrapped around me, so then I had hail completely around me, and I thought, this is not going to end well.
Oh, nice.
So I got underneath a tree, one of the few out there, and the baseball started falling, baseball-size hail, cracked the windshield, cracked just about every window in the car, gosh. Beat that thing to smithereens. But and that was a lesson for me. Hey, you need a navigator. You need someone to look at the maps and help you go along. So yeah, I never try to go by myself. If it's my youngest son, if it's my oldest son, if it's my wife, I always try to take somebody. And she's chased with me before, and she thought that chasing was a little bit different before we went out. Afterwards, she's like, there really is science to this, and it was. We got to see a bunch of cows scatter and lightning hit a telephone pole, and just all of a sudden the beef ran in all directions. So, almost had some chicken fried steak right there.
That's so.
It's a calf scramble.
Oh man, it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's got to be exciting to do, though.
It is. Well, it's become. There's a whole lot of chasers out there nowadays, and there was, after the movie Twister, it's good. Just don't strap yourself to a pole inside a barn and live like Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt did. Yeah. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I think that was a little far fetched.
A little, yeah. But that kind of recruited a whole bunch of chasers, and then around 2000, whenever the Weather Channel started putting the show with Reed Timmer in it. When he was trying to drive his car into a tornado, that kind of recruited a second batch of chasers. And now it's incredible the amount of people that are out. And I'm afraid we're going to have a tornado change directions on us one of these days and take out and kill a bunch of chasers. And, then that might lead to regulations and certifications and things like that. So I think we're living on borrowed time, and I hope I'm wrong. But I just see when I go out nowadays, there's literally people from all over the world. One of my guys leads a chase tour van company, and people from Germany and Japan and China take vacations to the U.S. to go storm chasing, and he will drive them all over the country. He's in Nebraska this afternoon with some severe weather up there. And, they're paying $1,000 or $2,000 for about a week of chasing all over the U.S. They guarantee them absolutely nothing, but they love it. And he's more than willing to take them wherever they want to go.
That's wild.
It's
amazing you can make a business of that like that. That's wild.
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me. That's the beauty of America, right? You can make a business out of anything.
That's right.
Steve, speaking of tornadoes, and I'm pretty sure that driving right into tornadoes is the wrong thing to do. But if for those listeners that don't know what to do, if they're caught in their car, like on the highway or something, I know that's like a fear of mine. Like if I'm driving along, and I look casually to my left and see a funnel cloud headed towards the road, what would you tell them to do? What is the right thing to do in that situation?
Yeah, and the interesting thing about that is it's changed over time. Back in the 90s, when I was speaking to schools and groups, I would have told them, hey, if you see an overpass, get underneath it. There's a place where you can take shelter. That was kind of based on a film crew in, I think it was 91 up in Wichita, Kansas. They were trying to outrun a tornado. They were going 85 down the interstate and couldn't do it. And they got underneath an overpass as their last resort, and the tornado went behind them, didn't go over them. It looked like it did, and they survived. And from 91 to 99, that was what we would have told people to do. But after May 3rd, 99 in Oklahoma City, we had 28 people killed that were underneath those overpasses that were sucked out and killed. And a lot of research was done that found underneath those things, the winds actually are made stronger. Air will try to squeeze itself underneath those. And so we don't tell people to do that anymore. We tell them to get in the ditches, the low places on the side of the road, and cover their head. And the reason why is because a car can be easily tossed around by even a weak tornado. And if you're down low, lots of times in a tornado, it's the crud that's blowing horizontally that does all the damage. And if you're below road level, that'll blow over you instead of you being above road level and things hitting you. And we found from that May 3rd tornado, little tiny bits of dirt can be deadly. Little tiny rocks on the side of the road can be deadly. And it was an eye-opening experience. That it was in Moore, Oklahoma. Winds were at times over 300 miles per hour. It took Jeeps from a car dealership and threw them a mile away and stuck them in the second floor of a hotel.
Whoa.
So,
holy cow.
Oh my gosh.
That's the power of the wind. Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. It was an eye-opening experience to see that. I think a lot of folks were like, wow, it's really and that, from that, a lot of research has come out. The Lubbock tornado, I believe it was 71. I'm not sure. It was in the 70s. The Texas Tech folks, I'm an Aggie, but I will give kudos to the Red Raiders for their wind research, because a lot of folks now build in-home tornado shelters, and a lady in Moore, Oklahoma built one of those. And the folks at Texas Tech said, well, we can only rate it to 220 mile per hour winds because that's as fast as we can shoot a 2x4 out of our cannon and hit the wall. She had 275 mile per hour winds at her house, and a piece of pipe from a neighbor stuck, I think, 6 inches into the wall, but it didn't penetrate the foot of concrete she had in that shelter. And so now it's rated to F5 strength. So it's really something that is here in Tornado Alley can be a lifesaver.
That's amazing. I didn't realize they were doing that research up there. That's good to know.
Yeah, they've done a lot. It's a wind research center that really came from the tornado that hit Lubbock in the 70s. It was an F5.
That's good.
Well, I tell you, we've talked about our school and alma mater, and thank you for giving a shout out to that. But really, the media, we're big fans of just colleges in general. I love universities. I love the history of universities. A&M has a super rich history. That's where you went, I know. Yes. Tell us that the meteorology school there is probably the premier in the country. Tell us a little bit about we're turning the gear a little bit. We'll get back to weather, but tell us a little about your experience at A&M, the meteorology school there. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, it's, a lot of folks think that every single college or junior college offers a meteorology program. They're actually pretty rare. In Texas, when I went to school in college in the late 80s, 90s, there was only A&M and St. Thomas University in Houston that had degree programs in meteorology. Now there are about 8 schools, including Tech, that offer atmospheric science and meteorology programs. I think Tech's program is mainly for a master's degree. I don't think they've got an undergrad. I may be wrong. But now there's some schools like, St. Edward's down in San Antonio. There's a couple others, I believe, some of the, smaller schools that are developing programs too. And I think it's a good thing. A&M's program is kind of interesting because of the Corps cadets. A lot of the meteorology majors are going into the military. And so I went to school with a lot of guys that were going to be sent out. Either the Air Force was usually one of the big meteorology folks there, and then they were being sent off to some other school to even get more training for, if they were being sent to the Southern Hemisphere, they had to have trained on everything going backwards.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Hemisphere, yeah. And also one of the things about meteorology that's misunderstood, a lot of folks think every meteorologist is on television, and it's not the case. There were 125 people in my graduating class at A&M, only 3 went into TV. So, and University of Oklahoma has a fantastic program. Penn State, Florida State has a great program too. We just hired a meteorologist from OU, and every single meteorologist I have from there their thing is severe weather. If you want to study hurricanes, you go to Florida State or University of Hawaii. They have fantastic tropical meteorology programs. So it's kind of specialized on what you want to do and what you want to study. As far as, if hurricanes are your thing, you probably want to go to Florida State. If you want to really study, severe weather, then OU, or you really can't go wrong with either one, but some programs are more specialized than others.
Yeah.
So if you're not on TV, what do the majority of people do?
A lot of them work for the National Weather Service. That's probably the greatest hiring place for meteorologists.
That makes sense.
I talked about my youngest son. That's really kind of what I think he wants to do, is something like that. Southwest Airlines, American Airlines, UPS all hire meteorologists for their planes. I've even heard of like TxDOT here in Texas. They will have some meteorologists on staff for their construction projects. If they're going to pour $6 million of concrete, the last thing they want to do is the temperature to drop and all that concrete to ruin. So they will do what's called spot forecast for certain construction sites. So it's mainly it's a broader field than a lot of folks think, but they see TV meteorologists, they go, oh, well, that's the only thing you can do. And it's really not the case. And a lot of research too, of course.
I've got my ham radio license, and I'm part of our area's ARES, which is an amateur radio emergency service, and we got to go to the where we live is there's the kind of a Twin Cities area. We have our National Weather Service kind of down by our airport, and we got to go into their facility in this one summer, and man, it's a compound. It's cool. It looks like you just went into like some high security. It's really impressive to go into those places. Just the amount of coverage that they have, the amount of instrumentation that they have. It's very impressive.
An interesting emerging science. A lot of folks think that, nothing's really changed in the weather business, but there are new satellites. There's one that's already up there right now. There's a second one that's now in orbit that greatly helps us. A lot of weather is upper level instrumentation. Weather balloons are the best way that we have to get information about the upper atmosphere. That's where the weather is. It's not down here. And satellites are now, the new satellites that are up there, being able to sample the upper atmosphere better, which in turn helps forecast. So there's a lot that goes on and goes into it. I have people say, well, how much time do you take making a forecast? There's a lot more information to look at, and that kind of muddies the water a little bit. I have about 30 different computer models at my disposal I can look at. I look at about 6 that I trust, but it's just knowing which one to look at. Sometimes it's almost information overload, but that's a good thing, because 30 years ago when I started in this business, we had very little technology, and it's really helped to all of us. And the bottom line is saving lives and property. And that's the one thing that we are seeing, is all that is helping save lives now that 20, 30, 40 years ago, we just, folks may have died because they didn't have enough advance warning.
Yeah, it's really cool to think about historically what things have, I mean, just in any area, just how did we do without the technology of warning, of tsunami warnings, just the tools that we have at our disposal for catastrophic events right now. I couldn't imagine not having those so long ago. It's amazing.
Well, and a great example is Hurricane Harvey. We would have not had the computer modeling available to us even 15 years ago to say, hey, Houston,
we have a problem.
Sorry. It's going to rain 50 inches on you. And, I remember hearing folks go, that's just, really? And I remember looking at that going, really? And after it happened, I thought, dang, it was spot on.
Yeah.
It was spot on.
Yeah, and that was almost impossible. I would think that would be an impossible weather pattern to predict, because who would have thought that it would have done what it did? Yeah.
And by the way, you can thank the Panhandle for that. It was high pressure that set over us that caused Harvey to come to a full stop. So please do not trash the Panhandle when you drive through it, because it really wasn't our fault.
Oh man. Oh
yeah, that was just a freak thing. It was so weird.
It just hit a brick wall and stopped, and boy, that was just the worst thing that could happen. The worst.
Yeah. Good grief.
Do you have any predictions for the upcoming hurricane season?
It's interesting that we're already looking ahead to the next hurricane season, because it starts on June 1st in the Atlantic. It's already started in the Pacific. In fact, I just saw we have a tropical depression out in the Pacific right now. And the good thing for the Gulf and the Atlantic is that the Pacific is warmer than normal now. We just came out of a La Nina pattern where the water is colder than normal. That water rapidly warmed in April. And how it's good for the Atlantic is when it's active on one side, it's active in the Pacific, it's usually inactive in the Atlantic. And when it's active in the Atlantic, it's inactive in the Pacific. Well, the Pacific is supposed to be active this season. So it's not to say the Atlantic won't have hurricanes, the Gulf won't have hurricanes. I have relatives that live in Puerto Rico, and it was bad in Southeast Texas with Harvey. It was horrible in Puerto Rico with Hurricane Maria. So, and they're still recovering from that. So it should be a less active year, but does that mean the hurricanes will be any less intense? Probably not. I mean, there's still going to be some storms. We'll just have to wait and see how many and where. And, if they happen out in the middle of the Atlantic, who cares? And they spin off and they just, affect shipping. But as we saw last year, we had 4 major landfalling hurricanes, and what a mess. What a mess.
No kidding. Scary.
Yep.
So I know that there's listeners that we have here from all over the country, and actually we have some actually all over the world, which is kind of cool. But for those listeners that have never seen or experienced or don't even believe that such a thing as a mud storm can actually happen,
I'm a believer.
Can you explain the phenomenon to those that don't know what that is?
My first couple of years I spent at Waco, and of course grew up in Central Texas, and it had rained with some mud or some dust in it. If you think you've got enough wiper washer fluid in your car or truck, it snowed. We had brown snow and rain mud all at the same time, and I thought, where in the heck am I?
Oh my God.
This just can't be happening. But it's really easy. There's so much dust in West Texas that under the right conditions, if you can get a storm to pull in some of that dirt, which can happen, it will literally rain balls of mud, or if it's in the wintertime, you will get brown snow. Like I said, it is bizarre, but I've seen it with my own eyes, and it is just, you just scratch your head and go, well, all right, I can write that off as something new. I'll probably, thought I would never see.
Never.
But the biggest problem, it really can be dangerous. We had this happen here in Amarillo last week, and a guy said, I was driving down the road. The wiper washer fluid light was on. I just ignored it. He said I had to stop and pull over, and I was wiping it I just had to just sit there and wait until it quit because I couldn't wipe my windshield off fast enough, and I was becoming a hazard to everyone else on the road. And that's the biggest thing is the windshield wipers just smear it, and you can't see anything.
I remember there's very few. It's very few times I've ever gone to an oil change place now that I live in this area that I haven't made sure that they've topped off my windshield wiper. Who does that? But I was just like, you got to fill that. Make sure that sucker's filled up. I've run out of it like multiple times this year. It's crazy.
Yeah,
who'd have thunk that? I mean, who does that?
West Texas weather is a whole breed by itself, but it's for a meteorologist, and we get people too. My coworkers, I've got one grew up in Chicago, another one that grew up in San Antonio, and they've already man, you just read about this stuff in books, and you get to experience it.
Yeah. Well, you're in the best place, I think, for weather. I mean, you've got it all. So,
except hurricanes, but I'll pass on that. Y'all can.
Yeah, believe me, you can have them if you want them. So
you mentioned El Nino, La Nina, those kind of things.
Yes.
Is that one of the reasons why? And I know this isn't a climate change thing, but that is an actual thing that you all study, right? The whole El Nino La Nina effect. Is that a lot of the cause? Because we have had no rain, right? And is that a lot of the cause of why, and I know that we kind of mentioned this before, but there's years where we get, like last year we had a really good rainy season. This year we haven't had anything.
It's absolutely the cause. And it's something that is normal. It was discovered back in the 40s in Peru, of all places. The Peruvian fishermen on the west coast of Peru fish cold water fish. And they noticed that once every 7 years, the fish went away. And it was because the water warmed. And that happened around Christmas time, so they called that effect El Nino, I mean the child, or around Christ or on Christmas. So that was how it's got its name, and it was considered. I mean, I remember when I went to school, it was taught. Yeah, it happens once every 7 years on average. Well, we didn't have buoys floating in the Pacific or Atlantic to measure temperature. We didn't know how that water flowed and what caused it. Now we do, and now we've got a pretty good idea, and we found that there are weak El Ninos, weak La Ninas. We came out of a pretty weak to moderate La Nina. The water was pretty cold in the eastern Pacific, and as you said, that causes storms to go through Oregon, Washington State. They go right up to the northern U.S. They batter the Northeast, and the national media screams and yells about it snowing all the time. We're like, could you share? Because we're ready to burn up. But yeah, for West Texas and the southwestern U.S., it's been horribly dry, and that's the reason. The good news is that water rapidly warmed, and it was about mid-April. It took about a week. It was amazing how fast it went away, and now we're getting back into a more typical, spring and summer pattern. So all of a sudden our chasers getting excited because we're going to have storms again, and we have had a few, but we need a lot more. West Texas is extremely dry, and we've had more fires than we had storms this past couple of months, and it's terrible. We need water bad.
Yeah. I remember the last time we had this was about 4 years ago. We had fires out here so bad that literally I remember flying in when I'd go on a business trip and I'd fly in. It literally looked like you were flying in to a place on fire. Like everywhere across the horizon was just red flames. It was really scary.
Yeah,
kind of spooky.
It's bad. And the only thing that relieves it is rain. And hopefully, I've had people ask me, well, we're going to have an El Nino winter, because that is good for West Texas and the southwestern U.S. That's when these storms come down to California and Mexico. They tap into that moisture and just dump it on us. And we'll see. It's too early to tell. That's still a part of, that's oceanography, but it relates to meteorology. And that's something that we don't really know everything about it yet, but it's, we'll see. We've had some times where we thought we were going to have an El Nino, and then the water suddenly cooled, and we just don't know why.
That's crazy. Wow.
It is. It makes forecasting that much tough, but that's something new that's still kind of emerging as far as the science of weather goes.
And I tell you, it's good that you guys are learning more and more about these things. And like I say, in any industry, if it was that easy, everybody would do it. So we're glad we have y'all. Yeah, we're glad we have y'all to do that. So it means a lot.
I'm happy to do it, and it's a rewarding job most of the time. It's a challenging job all the time. It's sometimes you'll be out. I've been on vacation in Washington State and run into people from here in the Panhandle. I was, and I'm not kidding about this. I was in the Galapagos Islands off the coast of Ecuador and ran into a couple from Childress, and
no way.
And you think you're going to get away from your job, and there they are.
That's
hey,
funny.
What's the weather doing? Well, it looks fine to me.
Yeah, it looks good. Yeah, good. Get your sunscreen out.
Oh yeah. But it's a 24/7 job.
I can imagine. You're a celebrity up there.
Well, I don't know about that.
Do you ever get people mad at you, like come up to you in stores and get mad at you and stuff?
The worst was in Waco. I had a lady that she came up to me. She's a little old lady, and my wife was with me, so I've got a witness. And she said, "Are you the meteorologist on Channel 10?" And I worked at Channel 10 in Waco. And I said, "Yes, ma'am, I am." She just all of a sudden it was like this sheet came over. She goes, "And I guess you're the one to blame for this crappy weather." And she turned around and walked off. And I said, "Have a nice day." Yep.
Yeah, might dial down tomorrow for you. Jeez.
Yeah, really. Well, you're not getting any rain.
God, no soup for you.
I'm the one to blame, so you just grin and bear it, and that's about all you can do.
Yeah, that's about it. So, okay, I always ask this to people when it's in a job or in a career that I am not 100% familiar with, which is everything. So, if you what would be one question that you wish we would have asked you that we haven't yet?
Oh gosh, you asked a lot. I guess it's mainly about the storm chaser safety and whether I get asked a lot. Do you have to have a degree in meteorology to storm chase? And the answer is no. The storm chasers that I have are, one's a teacher, one works for TxDOT. I have another guy he's a guard at the prison in Childress. So, but they're just extremely interested in the weather and want to do something to help their communities. And if somebody does want to chase, I would strongly suggest you go to one of the National Weather Service's spotter training. You need to know some basics about the storm. There is a safe way to do it. There is a very unsafe way to chase, and you can be killed. It's not, just a bunch of people out screwing around. So if someone is interested in the weather and does want to do this, you can. It's free. It's a free course, but you need to be trained and for your safety and the safety of others.
Yeah, that's good.
That's a dangerous. Yeah. You're putting yourselves in harm's way. You're putting yourself in harm's way, I should say. People, I think people kind of don't take that into account and don't appreciate that until they're eye to eye with the funnel cloud. So, and by then it's too late. So
by then it's too late. And there is a safe way to chase the storm, and that's what they'll teach you. And that you have a bunch of people that ask me that. So, here's what you do that. Then maybe go out with someone who's done it before, see how it's done, and then go from there. But we have a bunch of people that have watched all of Twister 800 times, or they watched all those storm chases. Like, oh, good, I know how to do this, and they get out and get themselves hurt or somebody else hurt, and we hate to see that happen.
Oh boy.
Right. Well, Steve, thank you so much. We're very thankful for your time. I know you have a show that's coming up here, so we're gonna need to wrap this up. But would you consider coming back again sometime?
Absolutely.
Well,
we'd love to have you back on.
We'd love to have you back on, and if there's some more severe weather that comes up, or even if there's not, it'd be good to just have you on here and pick your brain. There's so many more questions that I have and I'm sure our listeners probably have too.
Oh yeah,
we could go on for a while, but
glad to help out any way I can, anytime.
Yeah. I have a question for you though. Do you want to hear a joke about ghosts?
Sure.
That's the spirit.
Good Lord. And we've transitioned.
It is. It has to be, and I've yet to have a smooth one. But here, there you go.
Oh my gosh, man.
Hey,
do you know what a shark's favorite sandwich is?
What?
I don't know.
Peanut butter and jellyfish.
Oh, that's painful.
Hey, I got to laugh from the teenage correspondent.
Oh, and yes, I understand, teenage correspondent. You have a joke.
Yes, please enlighten us.
Do you want me to base it off my dubs and L's or?
Whatever you want to do. This is your time.
No, man, you can't screw it up. Go
What's
for
your
it.
joke?
I don't know.
Did you really forget it?
Yeah. Wait, I'm gonna think of it. Wait, I have a
I have to give credit for that previous joke to my mom. She sent that to me, and I was like, "Yes, Mom, that's a good one."
She's the pun queen.
She really is.
We need those on this show. I promise. She can come. She can tell us any day for sure.
Yeah.
It's all right. It'll come around.
Yeah.
I have a lot. I've heard a lot and stuff. There's just not the front of my brain right now. Like,
go for it.
Yeah,
Let's
go
hear
for it.
Well, I can tell you a good Aggie joke.
We have not had.
We haven't had one of these yet.
Well, did you hear about the two-seater aircraft that was flying over College Station and crashed into the Aggie cemetery?
No.
It was a horrible, horrible thing. The Aggie Fire Department was first on the scene. They recovered the plane, and so far, 2,438 bodies.
That's good, man.
I can't even top that one. I'm stopping.
I think we should stop right there.
That was genius. I love it.
That's the first Aggie joke we've ever had.
I can't believe that. I guess we were waiting. We were waiting for you. We were waiting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, that's perfect.
That's awesome, man.
That is a good one. Okay. Well, hey, listen, thanks again for being on. We really appreciate your time. We know you're getting ready for a show. Pretty cool. You're actually recording from your studio, aren't you?
We are. We got a setup that we use for our radio weathercast that we do. And so, we're here in the studio in about 40 minutes. We've got a show to do. So.
Well, go get them and make it rain like for your lady in Waco, okay? And for me, too.
I'll hear about it if I don't.
I know you will. She'll be calling now that she knows we're talking about her.
Exactly.
So, well, Noel, sign us off.
Well, I appreciate everybody. First of all, hold on, let's back up. Does a teenage correspondent have his joke? I want to give him a chance.
I don't know why this one came to mind first.
Good. Yes.
I remember it was a week or two ago. One of the kids, it was for some project. He's like, "Man, I'm out of screws," and I was like, "All right, well, you're screwed."
Oh, man. That's good.
Oh boy.
It totally was.
And with that
was not just clever. Good one.
I don't know what it is about our teenage correspondents. I don't know what it is about our teenage correspondents, but their jokes are funnier than anybody else's.
And they're all natural. They just come right in through it. It's amazing.
I don't get it, but
I don't either. But I'll keep them. I keep them coming. That's awesome.
Well, again, Steve and our teenage correspondent, we were very thankful for your time tonight, and I'm glad that you guys joined us. And we will, for our listeners, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Testosterone Podcast, and we will talk to you at episode 16.
Yes, and next episode we will announce our first set of winners for our teenage correspondent word of the week. And so vote and make sure that you listen in next week, and the winner is going to win a t-shirt. And if it's one of our guests whose winner is with us, the guest will win one too. So Steve, teenage correspondent, you're on the next round.
Awesome. Cool.
Thanks a lot, guys, and appreciate everyone listening to the Testosterone Zone. Hey, thanks again for listening to the Testosterone Zone. We sure had a blast visiting with you. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe, leave us some feedback, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram.
All Testosterone Zone podcast episodes are written and produced by Noel, Keith, and Steve unless otherwise noted.
The opinions expressed in the Testosterone Zone podcast are our own and not those of our employers, families, parents, kids, dogs, cats, your mom, or any other entity Noel, Keith, or Steve are affiliated with now, in the past, or in the future, or ever.